Drum notation explains where each drum in your drum kit is located in a musical stave. Musical stave looks like this. 5 lines, and the notes are placed either on the spaces or on the lines, or above the lines sometimes, and sometimes under. We've got 2 main kinds of notes that cover the most of the notes, but there's also a couple other ones. So we're going to start going through them. There's a lot of here that you're not going to need in quite a while, but I'm going to put them here anyway, and then we can get back to them later. So the first kind of important symbol we have is the drum clef, which means that this music that you're about to read is written for drums. So let's say you're a musical director and you have a big pile of music and you're handing them out. So then once you see this symbol, you know immediately that this is for the drummer. So you don't have to think about or read any further. The symbol tells you that already. It looks like a pause sign or 2 drumsticks, 2 thick lines reaching from the second top line to the second bottom line, covering the middle 2 spaces. So the first drum that we're going to put into place is the bass drum. And this is what bass drum looks like. The bass drum is the heartbeat of the drum kit. It's the biggest drum on an acoustic drum kit usually. And this is the position you usually find it in a drum kit. And also it's the lowest sound. Therefore, it's located in the bottom space. Sometimes people have 2. So if you have 2 bass drums, the second bass drum is noted on the bottom line. Most of these drums are located in the spaces. The second note we're going to have a look at is the floor tom. And floor tom is the second lowest sound and second biggest drum on your drum kit. So therefore that is located on the second space from the bottom, just above the bass drum, which is on the bottom space. So there's our number 2. Now some drummers, famously John Bonham, had 2 floor toms quite often on his drum kit. Quite a lot of big rock players tend to have 2 floor toms because they like to have the low sounds, the powerful low notes. Now, right above the floor tom is one of the most important notes we'll have, which is the snare drum. The role of the snare drum is to kind of counter with the bass drum. Most beats, I'm not saying all beats, but most beats will have a relationship with the bass drum and the snare drum. They're almost having a conversation. Once we start going through the beat, you see how they have a strong relationship. Snare drum is located here, usually between your legs and a comfortable height so you don't hit your legs when you're playing it, or you don't have to reach up and take your shoulders too up, because that will cause you all kinds of problems in the future and make it quite uncomfortable to play as well. Now the next note we're going to look at is number 4, which is the medium tom. Like the name, it's on the middle of the line. This is the only one of the dots that we have that lands on the middle of the line. On my acoustic drum kit, I don't have a medium tom. I'm keeping my right cymbal on that gap. We're going to have a look at right cymbal later. But on the electronic drum kit, you can see there's a medium tom here between the floor tom or the low tom and the high tom, which is our next drum. And high tom is the highest note we have from the toms, and it's on the highest space as well. You can see it right at the top. Now the toms allow me to play a lot more melodically. Therefore, the notation of them is sometimes a bit harder to read, but something that we're going to have a look at as well at some point. So the next note we're going to look at is number 6. Hi-hat with foot lands on the bottom space. Like the bass drum, which is on the bottom space as well. But, as you can see, the notation is in X. All the cymbals, you'll see that now that we're looking at the cymbals, are notated as X's. Number 7 is a ride cymbal. Again, an X, and that's on the top line. This is what it looks like. My ride cymbal is where the medium tom usually would be, as my drum kit doesn't have a medium tom. And sometimes it is like on my electronic drum kit, just above the medium tom, but without covering too much of the medium tom, so I can still access both of those, the ride cymbal and the medium tom. And next we have another really important sound, the hi-hat closed, and that's our number 8. Again, an X just above the line. You'll see these a lot in our beats. If we open the hi-hat, which means obviously lifting the ball of our foot a little bit from the hi-hat pedal, this is an open hi-hat sound. You can see there's a circle above the note to tell you it's an open hi-hat sound. Usually this is followed by number 10, or whenever you need to close the hi-hat, you see a plus sign. So these two sounds, the open and close, quite often follow each other. They are both, like closed hi-hat, located just above the top line. You only need to put the plus sign there once to indicate where you close the hi-hat. So that's the action of actually closing the hi-hat. Number 8 doesn't mean that you have to close the hi-hat with your foot. This means the hi-hat's already closed when you're playing it. Or you might have a whole bar or section of the open hi-hat where you would have the circle above the hi-hat like this. And then there would be a moment where they tell you, let's say you're going back to the verse and want to bring things back down a bit. You'll have this symbol to tell you this is what happens. 11 is a crash cymbal. Now this is usually the student's favorite, very noisy one. Very commonly paired up with the bass drum to cover the high and the low frequencies. You know, something you can try this on your own drum kit if you have one, and hit the bass drum and a crash cymbal together, and that's a very satisfying sound. Very often starting or finishing songs, or emphasizing certain sections or notes in the song, or section changes, or following a drum fill. If you don't know what drum fills are, then find that video. We're talking about drum fills. So this is crash cymbal. Again, you might have a couple of crash cymbals. Some drum kits have more than one. At those cases, you might see numbers 1 and 2 above the crash cymbal. You might also have word choke written over this one, which means you are grabbing the crash cymbal right after hitting it. Number 12 is our ride cymbal again, but this time you're playing the bell of the ride cymbal.